This is Scotch, your nomadic canine life coach. A little bit of a history lesson for you. Doing a little bit of a travel vlog, if you will. If you're in Colorado and you hear about Sand Creek Massacre, or Kit Carson, or any of the other stuff, I want you to always pay attention to the towns that are around these places. If you're excited about Kit Carson but don't know anything, know there's probably some sort of indigenous nation close by. There's something about America, we like to use those names as punishment, as a reminder. I'm heading up to Sand Creek Massacre, to the site. We'll discuss that and I'll show you that in print. But right outside of that, about 10 minutes, is the town Shivington. And I'll show you who Shivington is and why this is important. It's just equivalent of Carson, just equivalent of Custer. So hold on, I'll show you. So this is the town of Shivington. Keep in mind that name. We're gonna drive through the town. When you come up to a place like this, and it's a small, nothing town. And in fact, what I'm gonna do is, I saw this spot earlier, is we're gonna pull up here. Look at these cool little private property. But I mean, you got your abandoned places. This was a, Kiowa County clerk, experienced, devoted. I'm going to show you something. So that was about a 5-10 second stop. As we go to the town, go through the town, no grocery store, no nothing. This was a railroad stop. Railroad's right there on the edge of the thing. We're coming up, this sign right here is the end of Shivington. That's not the important part. The important part is this sign coming up on the right. Sand Creek Massacre National Historic Site. And I'm glad it's a National Historic Site. Absolutely, it's beautiful. I love that. And you can tell there's not a whole lot near it. But what comes next? So you have the town of Shivington. Then you have Sand Creek Massacre. If you've ever been to Sitting Bull, was it Sitting Bull? If you go through Pine Ridge, you go through Dakota Territory, you learn about, Custer getting killed by women in battle. Right outside of the town, where they're building the memorial out of stone. Oh, damn it, I'm gonna have to redo this video. Maybe, we'll see. Is a town of Custer. Custer died in battle. He was not a hero. Shivington. Let's get back to Shivington. So let me pause and get out of the car for a second. There's always these wonderful things you drive through, right? Hold on. Pause. All right. A town called Shivington. The name of a small southeastern Colorado town of Shivington evokes controversy. Why? 1861 to 1862, the Civil War in Colorado. November 29, 1864, Sand Creek Massacre. So 2 years after the Civil War, Shivington ordered troops to attack the village at Sand Creek. Soldiers massacred over 230 Cheyenne and Arapaho, including 150 women, children, elderly. 14 Cheyenne council chiefs were among the dead. 1865 to 1884, treaties and removal. Sorry, no trigger warning. Anywhere you find a massacre site, Bear River Massacre, anywhere you find a massacre site, you're going to find a town named after the person that started it. Why? If you go to, I could tell you Fort Defiance right now, which was a boarding school, Fort Defiance has a Kit Carson Trail. We have the town of Kit Carson about 30-40 minutes northwest of here. We've got a Kit Carson prison about an hour east of here. Anywhere there's an indigenous landmark, we're gonna have killers. And he wasn't just a killer, he was a mutilator. He did damage to dead bodies. We talk about, the scalping of indigenous folks. We scalped. Our military scalped. And yes, there was a whole controversy, and he was, it went to Supreme Court, and people were found guilty. But the railroad, because they go by alphabetical order, A, B, C. So from Kansas into Colorado, I don't know what the towns are, but they chose C. C was the next one. They chose Chivington. They could have chose anything else. They chose Chivington. Also, like, I don't know, Stonewall or General Lee. All these other Confederate soldiers and monuments everywhere else. We purposely like to have stuff like this. This is American culture. So, but this is now a national site. 1869 to 1884, President Executive Orders created reservation of Southern Cheyenne, and the Northern Arapaho at the Wind River in central Wyoming for the Northern Cheyenne at Lame Deer, southeast Well, let's talk about the actual recovery. Let's talk about acknowledgement this actually happened. The town died out. Thankfully, you saw what's there. There's not much there. It's a 15-second drive-through. When it actually had, it was a railroad town. Not great videos because it's all sun-baked. I'm in the sun. Post-massacre to a National Historic Site. By 1890, most indigenous nations, most of the Arapaho and Cheyenne were removed to reservations. Like many of the other tribes, the Cheyenne and Arapaho were forced to assimilate despite hardships and relocation and continue the tradition and language and culture. The Sand Creek Massacre has never been forgotten. Stories have been passed from generation to generation. In 1998, tribal officials worked with the National Park Service, located the site of the Sand Creek Massacre. Sand Creek Massacre National Historic Site was established 2 years later. Opened in 2007, the park is a place of spiritual healing. Cheyenne and Arapaho tribal members visit annually to honor the victims and survivors for the healing of ancestral homelands. Today, the park stands as a reminder of the tragic legacy of injustices towards this country's original peoples, the sovereign nations that were here before us. And we can still celebrate people like Chivington, people like Custer, people like Kit Carson. More things I want to show as we drive. And if you come in here, please do come visit, go through the town of there, or if you're coming east, there's another one, I forget the other town. You're gonna come up to Chief White Antelope Way. And we're gonna go that way a little bit. I'm not gonna go all the way in because it's closed. So pause. So as we drive up here, I want to remind you, this wasn't just a place where people just happened to be. This is a place of celebration. Now it's closed. Open Thursday through Monday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And there's cows. Beautiful country. But it wasn't like Chivington just happened to show up. Remember, he was a head of the military, the United States Army. He wasn't just here walking around and got attacked. This is a massacre of over 200 people. There's a spot up here I want to show you before you actually get to the massacre site of the Sand Creek Massacre site, there's something else that is very telling of what we like to do for before we get to what should be a humiliating thing. So I'm gonna pause this so we get out there. We got an 8-minute drive, and I don't want to keep going the whole time because I don't do edits. I do pauses, but I don't do edits. When I find it, I'll let you know. Pause. All right, I'm back. Point of interest. These are always kind of fun because you learn interpretations of history. So I got point of interest, and there's a whole bunch of stuff just over there to the right. So we'll pause it till we get up there. All right. Sand Creek Massacre, fire danger high. Absolutely. And the reason why I freaking hate this spot. Sand Creek Massacre is just up the road. We're going to talk about these signs right here and why these need to go specifically. So we'll be right back. Pause. Okay, so we established as a massacre site. They're named the town after Chivington. Colonel John Chivington, right? Colonel John Chivington that created that did this. So we know there's a massacre site of over 200 women and children and elders. If you Wikipedia his name, it gets worse, much worse. I talked about that. So I'm going to switch over. We're going to talk about Sand Creek and why he went over there. They're celebrating it. This isn't the negative aspect of it. This isn't the bad part of history. This is America actually putting up interpretive signs that say, this is what he thought, this is what he's doing. Because, welcome to America. White supremacy. It was only after somebody complained, and there was other soldiers that watched, other regiments that watched it happen, and they didn't intervene. You know, you can't really go against the military when they're funding you to go be frontiersmen, mountain men, frontiersmen to go west, California Trail, Old Oregon Trail, help with the California Republic, all these things. People were there. They were watching this happen with their Colonel John Chivington. Let's talk about that. Tribal journey to Sand Creek. On October 1864, nearly 1,200 Cheyenne and Arapaho moved south from the Smoky River in northern eastern Colorado to Sand Creek and eastern Colorado. Following the guidance they received from Territorial Governor John Evans in September, the Cheyenne and Arapaho were proclaiming their peaceful intent by moving to Fort Lyon Reservation from Sand Creek. About 550 Arapaho under Chief Little Raven continued south toward the fort itself, where they set up camp. Major Wynkoop considered both the Arapaho near Fort Lyon and the Cheyenne camps at Sand Creek prisoners under military protection. So, according to military, they're already prisoners under the fake Indian Wars. They're prisoners of war. And this is also before the Geneva Convention. November 6th, several Cheyenne chiefs, including Black Kettle. There's a spot in Kansas. There's a battle out there. Including Black Kettle, traveled to Fort Lyon to request permission to move closer. Newly appointed post commander, Major Scott Anthony, told the Cheyenne to remain at Sand Creek. While Anthony honored the arrangement Major Wynkoop made with the tribes, he felt uneasy with the presence of Arapaho close by. When forage ran out for the Arapaho in mid-November, Major Anthony approved Chief Little Raven's request to take his people further down to the Arkansas River. The remaining Arapaho, including Chief Left Hand, traveled north to join their Cheyenne allies at Sand Creek. This is Chief Little Raven. Oh, I missed all that. Chief Little Raven. This is where we are. Kansas, Colorado territory. Smoky Hills River. Back to me. I can't see when it's down there. A lot of bugs. Now we're going to get into how we glorify Chivington. I'll read all of it. Night march to Sand Creek. So we established everybody was peaceful, and yes, there was some hesitation. There was already tension between the settlers and every other nation, indigenous nation, because of the fake Indian wars on our western expansion. Because if you come into somebody else's area and start stealing all their food, setting up territories without talking to them, without communicating and trying to be part of a community, assimilate, you get people that come in and out that don't know what the hell is going on. And then you take all their food, and they're going to have to fight for food. America does not change. Soldiers' journey to Sand Creek. On the cold, moonless evening of November 28th, 1864, 675 cavalrymen left Fort Lyon, turned due north, and rode into the darkness. Fort Lyon, Bent's New Ford, line of the march. And this is where we are. I kind of took this way. This is the way I took down to get here. Commanded by Colonel John Chivington, their destination was a Cheyenne Arapaho village on the Big Sandy Creek. About 250 of these men were veterans of the 1st Regiment Cavalry, Colorado's volunteers, and were familiar with the military life. The rest were 100-day volunteers, 3rd Regiment Cavalry, Colorado volunteers, with little or no military experience. And they're probably the ones that got in trouble. 3rd Regiment soldiers were excited when they left Camp Fillmore, Boonville, Colorado, 5 days before on their first expedition. By the time they left Fort Lyon, however, the rigors of campaign life had set in. Most were already exhausted, and the night march only made things worse. Some fell asleep in their saddles, others fell asleep as soon as they dismounted. Some managed to nap in their saddles, but my own experience warns me in saying it was a poor way to get sleep. But when a halt was made, many would dismount, drop on the ground, fall asleep in a minute. Despite the rough going, Chivington's soldiers made good time. The column made a 45-degree turn at the northeast around 1 a.m. in the morning on November 29th, a course that would have them less than 3 miles south of Cheyenne and Arapaho villages by sunrise. So remember, when they were here, they had permission to be here, so to speak. They were camping so they can get to Fort Lyon, to surrender. They were already prisoners of war. And then you have Colonel John Milton Chivington, Indian expedition to Sand Creek. When scouts located tribal horses, Chivington knew they were close. He marshaled his troops and prepared the attack. Stepping off into destiny. See this? Stepping off into destiny. Manifest destiny. This was our big lie. Plan of attack. Speed was the key to success. Chivington hoped to catch the Cheyenne and Arapaho unawares. His plan